Today our topic is about Riemann integral. So to learn about that, first of all we need to know what is interval. For that we will draw a graph like that. This is a real number series. Okay, so what is interval actually? Interval means length between 2 points and they must be in order wise. For example, we can take that -2 to 4. This is one of the bounded interval actually. What does mean it? It's contain the -2 and -4 and also between all the elements. That means -2 to 4 is one of the interval, and these are the sub intervals like -2 to -1, -1 to 0, 0 to 1, 1 to 2. These are the sub intervals. You can see also this graph here, to x1, x1 to x2, x2 to x3. These are the sub intervals of a function. Example, -2 and 4. This is a bounded interval and the sub intervals are -2, -1, -1 and 0, 0, 1 and 1, 2, 2, 3 and continue. So these are the sub intervals of a main interval. Next we will proceed next. What is partition? Partition is a finite ordered set actually. Here you can see a equals to x0 and thereafter x1, x2 to x9 and x10, that is equals to b. So in this series, partitions p means x0, x1 up to xn. The whole series is a finite ordered set and belongs to closed interval a between b, and this is called the partition. What is refinement of a partition? It's a partition of a partition. The example, if p is one of the partition 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4 and 1, this is belongs to closed interval 0 between 1. Okay, and if we put between any of the sub intervals new number, just like I put 0 and 1/4. Between 0 and 1/4 I put 1/8, and between 3/4 and 1 I put 7/8. So these are my new entries. So I can say that Q is the refinement of P, and you can see the elements in refinement is greater than the partition. Okay, so that's how I can write that P is the proper subset of Q. Next, what is the norm of the partition? It's the maximum length between any of the sub intervals of a partition. Here you can see norm of the partition means if we take the sub interval, that is x1 between x2. If we take x1 between x2, this is one of the sub intervals, and the length between it we call the norm of the partition if it is maximum belongs all the sub intervals. Okay, if P is the whole partition, then maximum of the length between these sub intervals, okay, whichever is maximum, this is will call the norm of the partition. Norm of the partition means maximum of del xi, where del xi denotes the length of the sub intervals. Okay, next we need to know what is infimum and supremum. Infimum is called in short GLB and supremum is called in short LUB. GLB means greatest lower bound and LUB means least upper bound. What is least upper bound? This is a subinterval of the partition P. Okay, what is GLB here? GLB is the lowest value of the function, over here. This is called the GLB, greatest lower bound. Okay, and next after, what is least upper bound? What is least upper bound? That means the value of the function between these intervals is greater than the GLB of that particular portion. Okay, that particular portion. And next, what is least upper bound? Okay, for the same interval, here it is the least upper bound, LUB. Okay, what is that? Least upper bound, greatest value of the function between any of the value between this interval of the function. As the definition, you can see that greatest lower bound means maximum of the value of the function between a particular interval. Least upper bound is a least value between all the upper bounds, and it is the definition, and it also called the supremum. Okay, and I repeat, greatest lower bound is the greatest value between all the lower bounds, and the least upper bound means is the least value of the all upper bounds. Okay, and here is the example. If 1 and 4 is an open interval, okay, then GLB will be 1 and LUBL will be 4. Upper and lower remain sum. Here it is the definition. Suppose x0 to x1 is a subinterval, x1 to x2 is another subinterval, and x2 to x3 is also another subinterval, and partition is P, which contain A to B elements. Okay, and here fx is the function. Fx, the value of fx varies in various points. Okay, what is lower remain sum? Lower remain sum means between all the subintervals. Okay, between all the subintervals, all the least value, it means all the lowest value between the intervals. What is lower remain sum? The function must contain a lowest value and also a greatest value between all the intervals, and lower remain sum means the summation of all the lowest value of the function between all the intervals is called the lower remain sum. And at the same time, what is upper remain sum? Upper remain sum is also called the all the greatest value of the function between all the intervals. All the greatest value of the function between all the intervals, summation of all the greatest value of the summation of all the greatest value of the function between all the intervals is called the upper remain sum, and it defines just like summation I equals to 1 up to n small m suffix I del xi. What is del xi? Del xi means the length of any of the subintervals.